Hi, my favorite second graders. I hope you're doing good today. This is our last book in this series, Simple Biography. It's called The Pot That Juan Built by Nancy Andrews Cobell, pictures by David Diaz. So there's some Spanish words in here. Mia and Joshua, I wish you were here helping me. I can't believe I have to do this by myself today, but I will do my best. The Pot That Juan Built, title page. This is the pot that Juan built. Juan Quezada was born in Santa Barbara, Tutuca, Mexico in 1940. When he was 1 year old, his family moved to Mata Ortiz, a village of dirt roads and adobe houses on the windswept plains of Chihuahua. It was there that Juan rediscovered the pottery making process of the Casas Grandes people who had vanished from that part of the Mexico 600 years ago. There was a lot of Spanish words in there. Mia, Joshua, are you proud of me? I did pretty good, I think. These are the flames so sizzling hot that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. Juan became a professional potter in the 1970s. Before that, he worked as a farmer laborer, a railroad hand, a sharecropper, and even a boxer. He has never been afraid of hard work and takes pride in using ancient methods and natural materials in his pottery making. Juan taught 8 of his 10 brothers and sisters and many of his neighbors how to make pots. They all developed their own special styles. Juan's discovery changed Mata Ortiz from an impoverished village of poorly paid laborers into a prosperous community of working artists. These are the cows all white and brown that left manure all over the ground, that fueled the flames so sizzling hot, that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. Juan's pottery is fired the traditional way, using dried cow manure for fuel. He gathers manure on the cattle range that surrounded the village of Mata Ortiz. In his experiments, Juan learned that manure from cows that ate grass rather than commercial fed burns at the best temperatures to turn his clay pots into perfectly fired works of art. This is the brush of hair from his head that spread the paints all black and red, that colored the pot for all to admire before it was baked in the cow manure fire. The crackling flames so sizzling hot that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. Juan makes paint out of local minerals such as black magnesium and red iron oxide. He makes paintbrushes from human hair. He says that some of his best brushes are fashioned from children's hair, especially his granddaughters. Since very little hair is used to make a paintbrush, no one minds giving Juan just a snip to design a pot. These are the rocks of red and black, brought down from the mountain on a burro's back, to make into paint all black and red, spread with the brush of hair from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire before it was baked in the cow manure fire, the crackling flames so sizzling hot that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. When he was 12 years old, while bringing firewood down from the hills on his burro, Juan found his first pot shreds. They were pieces of broken pottery from the ancient Casas Grandes city of Paquim, which was located 15 miles from present-day Mata Ortiz. The pot shreds inspired Juan to create something similar. Even though he had never seen a potter at work, Juan began experimenting with local materials. His mother declared that he was always covered in dirt of many colors from his experiments with minerals and clay. So this says that Juan likes to explore and try new things. So think about how that might change his pots. This is the tool that's made out of bone that rubbed the pot until it shone, and glittered and glowed, and glistened and glimmered and beamed and sparkled and shimmered, to show off the paints all black and red, spread with the brush of hair made from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire, before it was baked in the cow manure fire, the crackling flame so sizzling hot, that flickered and flared that fired the pot. The beautiful pot that Juan built. After his clay pots dry, Juan polishes them before he applies the paint. To polish his pots, Juan uses animal bones, smooth stones, and even dried beans. Animal bones are abundant because of the deer hunting and cattle ranching that help feed the people of Mata Ortiz. Smooth stones are available in the river, which runs along the eastern boundary of town. Of course, dried beans can be found in any kitchen in the village. Here's the tortilla, slap, slap, pat, pat, and the sausage of clay so slick and fat that became the pot, imagine that, and the wink of an eye and the blink of a cat before it was rubbed with a piece of bone, over and over until it shone, to show off the paints all black and red, spread with the brush of hair from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire, before it was baked in cow manure fire, the crackling flame so sizzling hot, that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. Juan builds all his pots. He begins by patting out a flat piece of clay he calls a tortilla, which becomes the bottom of the pot. He then rolls out a sausage-shaped piece of clay called a chorizo and presses it onto the edge of the tortilla, pinching and pulling it up to become the walls of the pot. Juan makes his pot in a small workroom behind his house, often in the company of Chicken and his calico cat. This is the clay all squishy and white, dug in the hills from morning till night, to make the tortilla, slap, slap, pat, pat, and the sausage of clay so slick and fat, that became the pot, imagine that, and the wink of an eye and the blink of a cat, before it was rubbed with a piece of bone, over and over until it shone, to show off the paints all black and red, spread with the brush of a hair from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire, before it was baked in the cow manure fire, the crackling flame so sizzling hot, that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. Juan says his painted designs look best on barro blanco, a pure white clay he digs in the Sierra Madre mountains above Mata Ortiz. He uses the ancient designs of Casas Grandes potters for inspiration, but he doesn't copy them. Juan never plans the decoration in advance. He lets the pattern develop as he paints it onto the clay pots. That's super cool. I like that. That's neat. These are the ants that led the way and showed Juan a vein of a special clay. The very best clay, all squishy and white, dug in the hills from morning till night, to make the tortilla, slap, slap, pat, pat, and the sausage of clay so slick and fat, that became the pot, imagine that, in the wink of an eye and the blink of a cat, before it was rubbed with a piece of bone, over and over until it shone, to show off the paints all black and red, spread with the brush of a hair from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire before it was baked in the cow manure fire, the crackling flames so sizzling hot that flickered and flared fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. One day, while Juan was out searching for minerals and clay, he noticed a colony of ants burrowed with tiny cargoes of white material. Looking closely, Juan realized that the ants were transporting bits of clay from underground up to the edge of their anthill. So Juan dug a hole near the anthill and unearthed a vein of white clay, the finest clay he had ever seen. So it says Juan likes to explore and try new things. So think about that. How did that help him make the pots? So think about how that helps him make his pots. You guys, I think about you on Friday Fun, and you guys are so creative. So many of you are doing art and painting and cutting and making things. And sometimes you guys don't even know what you're making until you start get going on it. It kind of reminds me of Juan. This is the cock that crowed at dawn, that greeted the village and woke up Juan, to ride the range and break of day, gathering rocks and hunting for clay, the very best clay, all squishy and white, dug in the hills from morning till night, to make their tortilla, slap, slap, pat, pat, and the sausage of clay so slick and fat, that became the pot. Imagine that, in the wink in the eye, in the blink of a cat, before it was rubbed with a piece of bone, over and over until it shone. To show off the paints all black and red, spread with a brush of a hair from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire before it was baked in the cow manure fire. The crackling flame so sizzling hot that flickered and flared and fired the pot. Juan gave away his first pots as gifts to family and friends. Today his work is exhibited in museums and art galleries all over the world. In 1999, Mexico's president presented Juan with the National Arts and Science Award, the highest honor of any artist in Mexico. Pope John Paul II received a Juan Quezada pot as a gift from the people of Mexico. In spite of his fame and wealth, Juan cherishes most of all the time he spends in solitude, exploring the hills above Monte Ortiz in search of minerals and clay. If he is very quiet, Juan says, the voices of ancient potters can still be heard. What does that mean? The voice of ancient potters can still be heard. So at the beginning of the story, we are talking about how Juan was using the same methods as his ancient ancestors. So I think that's why he says he can hear his ancestors talking to him when he's out looking for minerals. The beautiful pot that Juan built. And that's the end of our story. So this one and the last one we read was Snowflake Bentley. Both of these stories, I thought I had the book here with me, but I don't see it. But Snowflake Bentley and the pot that Juan built, one of the things that stands out most to me is that they both were very hard workers, and they weren't in their art for money and fame. They were in it because they were passionate about what they did. So that's pretty neat. Boys and girls, you have 2 assignments this week. One was the timeline that I showed you in the other video. The other one is a step-by-step retell. And if you noticed in the story, the directions and how he made it was repeated over and over again, always adding the next step to it. So this is the last page that I read that has all the steps. And what I'd like you to do is, you can use this as a reference, but try to remember and see how you do. And then you can write out the steps for me. I think there's about 9 or 10 steps here. You can write it on this side of the paper if you want, or you can decorate this paper and you can write the steps on another paper if you want to do that. And then go ahead and take a picture of this one, or if you choose to do the writing on a separate piece of paper, take the pictures of both of them in Seesaw and post them for me. I like to see what you do on this. Thank you. That was a good set. I like that set a lot. That was fun. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.